All right, here we are again. This is Sharif with OptimalWork here with Kevin, Dr. Majors. So we
Welcome
have
back.
lots of questions that we've gotten over the past week. Lots of exciting stuff coming too. Um, so Kevin, what's been new with you? Any new ideas you've been thinking
Well, I've been working a lot as you know, Sharif, because I'm working with you on this book,
about? Okay,
Optimal Work, an introduction to the science and virtue of work.
okay,
So, but I think it's going to be a fantastic introduction to all these ideas.
yep.
So we are looking forward to getting that. I think I don't know, when do you think we'll have that book out?
I'd say like maybe a week from now or so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The text is all written, so.
yeah, yeah.
So, do you have new insights as you're writing? Was there anything new that came up that okay, this is of special importance, or any totally new ideas?
Well, writing it with you and Rashad, so Rashad Bader is our third author on that. It was great just seeing what are the ideas that strike people as super
Yeah,
powerful or super interesting.
yeah,
One of the things that was highlighted was the importance of this fact that when you feel an emotion deliberately, it sends a message received signal back to your amygdala so they can stop giving you the signal. So it's a crucial little idea you get from neuroscience, but like the emotions are there basically just to tell us something. And they tell us by giving us the feeling of the emotion. Typically we feel it in front of our chest. If we do that, then as you feel it deliberately, it tells the generator, hey, okay, I got the message. And then the emotion starts to go down. So one thing that means is that if the emotions keep increasing, it's because you're not paying attention to them. It's like
right.
a child or something that's complaining, or that you have to like listen, give it your whole attention for just a moment, saying, I got the message. And
Hmm.
then it can run its course. So it was cool seeing that was like, that is such a big idea and ties together so much of the practice of what do you do when you have a strong emotion
Yeah.
to the neuroscience of it and how it works with, we don't get into this in the book, but how it works with your vagal nerve and putting it there and taking it back. But it's cool stuff. I don't know.
Hmm.
Did anything strike you new when,
Yeah, I mean, related to that negative emotions, just the idea that when things are kind of most difficult internally, like if I'm dreading something, say giving a talk or dreading a particular type of work, and when it feels most difficult, that's actually when I have the most opportunity for training myself to grow in that area or start
yeah,
working that type of work. So it's kind of so you're focusing on the alarm, like you have to be open to the alarm, right? But there's two very similar ideas.
yeah. It's also like, okay, so if you're fighting a particular emotion, say anger, okay,
Hmm.
so you might think that like changing your character so you're no longer such an angry person would take place, I don't know, when you're all calm and thinking about it. Oh, and then you work things out and I'm no longer an angry person. But no, it actually, all the shaping occurs
Hmm.
when your anger is triggered. So the flash of anger, and when you're feeling it very strongly, that's
Yeah.
actually when you're malleable. That's when you're shapeable. And so it's
Right.
when the emotion is very strongly triggered that you actually then let your ideals guide you. And instead of reinforcing the emotional triggering by acting on it, like venting or breaking things, you instead just try to then shape your behavior the way you want it to be. So
Hmm.
acting on your ideals while the emotions are very intensely firing, that's the sweet spot of change.
Hmm. Hmm.
So like that, because the emotions make us in a sense warm and soft and malleable. So
Yeah.
in which I think actually you were the one who put that in.
That
So
analogy.
that analogy, yeah. That's what I think that's a great point. That's where our emotions make us shapeable. And so most people think like when they have a strong negative emotion that they've already failed, but
Hmm.
that's actually where you win is while the
Yeah.
emotion's there.
Yeah. Is there now? Can you go into the neuroscience a little bit? I mean, that's because that's part of that's in the amygdala,
Hmm.
right? It's
Yeah.
that the more the amygdala perceives a threat, the stronger the alarm it sends,
Yep.
and
That's
then
part of it.
the more the
Mhm.
label gets reassigned as it
I
watches.
would say there's another fact, though, which is that your amygdala is part of what's called the paleocortex. So it is different than your upper neocortex in that it has one less cell layer and it doesn't have language. So it's the thing that basically is behind the emotional triggerings you have,
Hmm.
but it doesn't have language, which means you can't reason with it.
Hmm.
And it means like just talking things out isn't going to shape your amygdala's responses.
Hmm.
So, but while it's triggering the emotion very powerfully,
Yeah.
then it is watching your response. So the sign you have that your amygdala is ready to be shaped is that it's actually giving you a very strong emotion right now. You
Hmm.
just need the self-possession or the patience with the triggering of the emotion to actually do the shaping.
I
And then it's able to learn from your behavior. So the amygdala only learns from behavior. It doesn't learn from words.
Okay.
So your
That's
emotions have to respond to behavior. And so
so.
eventually the way you want to feel, like feeling right, it comes after um, acting right.
Hmm. And now, when you say it doesn't respond to words, that includes like thoughts, like so you can't just think
Yep.
yourself into a better
Yep.
state. You actually have to
Yep.
direct yourself with your
What
action.
what thinking can do is thinking can help you to reframe. So
Hmm.
you can think of how is this an opportunity for me to practice something? You can think in advance of when my emotion gets strongly triggered, how do I most want to respond?
Yeah.
So you can kind of be planning. Actually, this relates to some of the questions we got. Maybe that first question we
Okay.
could go
You want
to.
to do that first? Okay. So I'm dealing with fewer people more frequently. I'm on quarantine with several other people in my house. Three of them are insufferable characters. They hijack
Hmm.
conversations, aggressively contradict people who are just sharing information, and
Hmm.
needlessly complain. I'm not anxious of getting COVID-19. That
Mm.
virus cannot hold a candle to the virulence of my housemates.
That's pretty intense. All right. So this is, yeah. So you can kind of see that there's, so I don't know, Sharif, what would you make of this situation the person finds themselves in? Is that like a bad situation for them?
Well, yes, I
Yeah,
would.
it's trying. Okay.
It's very
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, I mean, I think if other like, well, so first of all, obviously you can see that there's like a unique opportunity there for like when it's difficult and tough, then
Hmm.
that's like you for you to be patient. I mean, and selfless in that situation is actually more valuable because I think the reason why, I mean, if you're around annoying people, they're not, I mean,
Yeah.
part of the reason why they're being annoying, right, is because they're
So
very
if you were to,
stressed out and they're,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So if you were to ask yourself, like, would my life, would I be like, would I do more good in the world and would I be happier if I were more kind and merciful and patient, and if I were able to like bring out the good in difficult people?
Hmm.
Like, is it a great skill to have, you know, to be able to see the good in everyone and to instead of getting focused on people's negative sides, which everyone has, you know, to
Yeah.
learn to really appreciate and be grateful for the good things in people. Okay, now in the whole of life, that would be a wonderful way of living. Like if you could be like that. Well, what better practice to get to that point than having quarantine with very difficult people? Right? The quarantine is not going to go on forever. It's this is a limited situation, you know, and so but it is by giving you more chances to practice, it's giving you an opportunity for real mastery.
Hmm.
And that kind of mastery so is actually how you become more deeply wise. But wisdom is mastery in being loving. And it means that you know in every situation what's the most loving way to respond. And that's what real wisdom is. And there is no greater good than that. So, an opportunity to obtain the very greatest good is a wonderful thing, right? Even though, yes, there's going to be discomfort, but discomfort is just the sign that there's growth there waiting to happen. So it's uncomfortable because there's growth there waiting to happen, right? And that growth ultimately is a growth in a kind of wisdom. So I think that the danger is in the moment of the testing. Okay, like while the emotions are getting triggered, which will happen, and that is no problem because okay, imagine you're with this person, they're complaining again, they're being insufferable.
Yeah.
What are the emotions you would feel? Like,
I would want to say something back.
yeah, so you might want to like
Eyes back.
teach them a lesson.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so teaching them a lesson, that's what anger is always trying to do. Anger is like the didactic emotion. It always wants to teach a lesson to people. It's like, I just want to be a teacher. I just want to teach. It's like, so it seems like it's doing good.
Yeah.
You actually, if you try to teach a lesson in that moment, you should never try to teach while you're angry because you're just venting the anger by doing that, which means you're going to get more angry next time.
Mm-hmm.
So the best thing is to smile at the anger, to welcome it, right? To let it be there and to do no teaching.
Right.
In that very moment. Don't try to make a point. Don't try to let them see how wrong they are. But instead, what's that?
Are you like doing the exact thing that you're upset with?
What do you mean?
Well, if you're getting angry at someone for complaining or criticizing interiorly, right?
Yeah, it very well could be that you're, in fact, in a kind of dance, and that's what often happens. That it's going back and forth, and people are pushing each other's buttons back and forth because they're each trying to teach each other a lesson, going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what has to be guarded against. That when you're angry, don't teach a lesson. Instead, try to act in a way that would likely bring out the best in the other person. So you can agree with them and then see what's on their mind, see the challenges they're facing, and help them in a subtle way, to reframe those challenges.
Yeah.
That would be the key, though, is like, how do you, in that moment where you're feeling like teaching them a lesson, instead, how do you just get closer, build the bond, show them interest, show them kind of be merciful. So, and find a way so that they feel like we're all on the same page together. So that'll make it easier for them to handle the difficulties. Mm-hmm. And if people went through, these struggles, and they just kept trying to build bonds, leave teaching lessons for the future. For right now, just be closer to people. Just be more entirely positive. Just focus on the good in them. Now is not the time to be correcting and changing people. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's one thing that. But there's another thing that when we were writing the stuff in the OptimalWork book on feeling overwhelmed. I don't know. Maybe would that be good to talk about?
Yeah. So okay. So the next question. Moving on. The question I have is decision paralysis and decision fatigue. That one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have been overwhelmed by all the projects
it's also
I could do.
So actually exactly, yeah. Okay, good. We can maybe segue but the idea I was just thinking about is, okay, when a person's overwhelmed, that's an issue with how they're relating to the challenge they're facing, right? And if you feel like the people that you're living with or the amount of work you have to do is overwhelming you, that's a sign that you're experiencing the challenge as if it's coming from outside of you. Mm-hmm. So the locus of the challenge is external to you. And so you're being challenged by these people or by all this work. Okay, that's the problem. Okay, the problem is not how much challenge there is in your life or the flavor of the challenge. The problem is entirely the location of the challenge. That it's coming from outside of you. And so you're just being like passively receiving this challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, the opposite of that is when you are actively challenging yourself. Okay, and the moment you flip it around so that you actively stretch yourself deliberately in some way, in that very moment you stop feeling overwhelmed because the location of the challenge has flipped. And now you are challenging yourself, and so there's a freedom there. And you'll have a freedom for how you challenge yourself. There'll be different ways of challenging yourself, but you have to locate the challenge within yourself. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
think a big problem people have with other people in their life is that they, like, when there's problems, they only think of how that person can change.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're giving all the opportunity for growth to the other person.
Mm-hmm.
It's much better for them to own the opportunity for growth.
Yeah. And so that there was also the idea of wanting to control, like controlling external situations or people
Yeah,
that we had talked
exactly.
about. So
Yeah, so if
when
you're
you're
trying to
overwhelmed,
control, hmm
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, if you're trying to control like external situations or other people, it's like you're thinking they have to change.
And then in some way, is that related to the idea of the challenge being outside of you because you're wanting to control the external situation, or if you're overwhelmed with work, you want the stuff outside of you, all the tasks or the work that you have to do to like just disappear and go away. That's your
Yeah,
ultimate goal, is you want to control the external situation. Um,
exactly. I think one of the things that reframing, like getting really good at reframing, which is seeing the opportunity for growth for yourself in a particular situation. One of the
mhm,
things that frees us from is the need to control things.
mhm,
Because when people have more of a fixed mindset and they just see themselves as, I don't know, having certain capacity, like I have this much capacity, then they're always making sure they don't get overwhelmed by trying to control everything around them. So, like, who I'm with, I have to control, and how long I'm with them, or how many projects are on my plate. But it's
yeah,
always like so that they don't get exceeded. But
mhm,
that is seeing themselves in some way as fixed. But the better we are at reframing, the more we can then see, okay, this is giving me an opportunity to grow in some way. And so rather than me needing to change it, I can change. So how do I need to change here? How can I grow through this?
mhm.
Maybe that's all
And
very
then
abstract. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty concrete for me.
Okay. Yeah, because what is control except a kind of safety strategy? People do it just to feel safe, so that they don't get exceeded in some way.
Right.
But the more a person it feels that he or she is growing and they're learning how to challenge themselves, they feel like there's a kind of momentum, but they don't worry about controlling everything, controlling other people.
Mhm. And then you mentioned that even at the height of reframing is gratitude.
Yeah, which is a shortcut. Like if you have difficult work to do or difficult people to live with, to think, how can I be grateful for them and the opportunities they're giving me? So gratitude makes you flip it around deliberately. That you're like, okay, it forces you to rethink. I don't know if even if something you had something that was painful or very uncomfortable, and you could ask yourself, okay, how can I be grateful for this?
Hmm.
I think that question, how can I be grateful for this, is probably like one of the surest paths to one, getting really skilled at reframing, and two, to being very wise. That you'll
Hmm.
start to see, okay, this is actually the best thing for me. And almost always, you take the thing that's most, I say, dare I say always, you take the thing that's most painful going on in your life right now and become grateful for it. You'll see it's exactly the kind of growth that you most need. So you actually can be most grateful for it once you learn how to reframe it.
Hmm. And is that easy to do? I mean, you make it sound easy. Just take the thing that's most difficult and be grateful for it. But
So if it were difficult and that difficulty was somehow painful,
mhm,
then you can at least be grateful that you are growing maximally at that point.
mhm,
So the harder it is to do, the more you are growing by doing it. And so the better it is. so you
Right.
can actually be more grateful for it. So the easier it gets to do, it's becomes second nature. Then you get more skilled at it, and it becomes more meaningful and becomes more a part of who you are. So actually, those first moments where it's hard are golden moments in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it's like to get on the right path and to persevere on it and get through the initial growing stages. So I would say if you're pursuing something like gratitude and love, and it's really hard, then you are really on the right path, and it's precisely what you need, and it's not a moment to wait.
Beautiful.
Great.
That's 20. Should we end on that note?
Yeah, let's end on that note.
Okay.
So let us know if you have any other questions if you're watching this. We are eager to see. What we try to do is see also what are like the themes that are showing up in questions. And so we might highlight one question, and also if you have any just experiences on reframing, on using gratitude, send us those too. We love hearing stories from people like trying to use these ideas. So that'd be awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for watching. See you next Monday at 10.